Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a scheduled live stream update. Nancy Guthrie, abduction day 17. We missed day 16 because a lot of things were incomplete and not clear, and we wanted to take a break and give you guys a break from us because too much of a good thing is sometimes not that good. But we want to thank you for being here. We are retired New York City police detectives, and we will give you all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective. So if you're not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed when we go live or upload another video. And thanks to all the members from teleporting from the members only live stream that we just did for the past hour. And we're going to continue it here with you guys. Nancy Guthrie, still missing, possibly abducted. We do not know the specifics, and I don't think anybody knows the specifics. No match on that glove from the 2 mile rate, away from Nancy Guthrie's home back to the DNA that they had inside her home. No match. The sheriff gave a new statement, actually 3 interviews. Your thoughts on what transpired yesterday and going into today?
All right, folks. So yeah, nothing in CODIS from the DNA from the house, nothing in CODIS from the DNA from the glove. Now both sets of DNA are going to have to be reworked, reformatted into Snap DNA, and then put into our genealogy databases and search to see if we can identify a family tree, distant relatives, build up the family tree, get a last name, search databases for this last name, see if there's any connections. That's where we're going with that. Okay. In addition, again, watching several interviews with the sheriff, he seems to say something, and then what he says kind of gets walked back. Like, for instance, that the family is cleared, and then later that kind of got walked back a little bit, if you noticed, by a public information officer. And then during an interview, he said that the FBI wasn't going around the gun stores and questioning dealers with photographs and names of individuals to see if they can identify anybody. And then that gets walked back. Well, not really walked back, but that gets contradicted by one of the gun dealers coming forward and saying, yeah, hey, they showed up and this is what they had. They had these photographs. They had these names. They said this was in connection with this abduction, and they asked if they could check their records. Then we find out that where they got these names and photographs from were that these were individuals that bought that holster.
Right.
So they had cooperation with Walmart, maybe, or Amazon, or whatever the case may be, or people who recently purchased that holster in that community.
Yeah. I had a feeling the DNA was going to be a dead end, and I think most of us investigators kind of thought that as well. But now they're on to this IGG, the investigative genetic genealogy, and we saw that with the Brian Koberger case. I think that's going to now come into play in this Nancy Guthrie abduction case. Will it be Ortham Labs that's utilized, or will the FBI? I don't know if the FBI does IGG. I think that is outside sourcing. So they used Ortham Labs for Rex Heuermann, Long Island serial killer, right, Ed? And also in the Brian Koberger case and many, many others. So is that what we're going to be seeing? And I'll play a little clip, and also we're going to get into the point of entry, because look, nobody has told us that the guy kicked in the front door, because there was no sign of that. We didn't see any breaks to the door. We didn't see anything from the front. We don't know if he slipped in and slithered in through that garage door that was open for 2 minutes. We don't know if there was an open sliding glass door out by the pool or in other points of entry in the home. We saw in the front on the left side, if you're facing or walking up to the home, there was a private patio that had a brick wall around it that had 2 sliding glass doors or more. On the right, there would look like all glass windows of some sort, but definitely sliding glass doors there. And I believe that led to the master suite. I don't know for sure. I'd love to get schematics on the inside of the home and look at that. And that's forthcoming. But it's anybody's guess And that's what makes this a crazy case. And that's what makes it so much different information and misinformation. And maybe some of it's right on the money, maybe some of it's not. But let's take a listen to this piece from the news. And then we actually have, I know there's a blank screen. We actually have a polygraph expert who's going to be joining us, retired NYPD detective Tim Acosta, who's a channel member and a great friend, worked with your wife, right?
That's correct.
Timmy knows everything about polygraphs. And guess what? We want to know if the Guthrie family, when the sheriff said they were cleared, were they polygraphed, right? Was the gardener polygraphed? Let me just put us back on for a second. Was the gardener polygraphed? Was the roofers polygraphed? Was anybody and everybody that came to that house asked to take a polygraph? Because as we hear Timmy say, Tim Acosta, polygraph expert, retired NYPD first grade detective, he does this for a living. And basically, if you ask Tim about polygraphs, he goes, if you got nothing to hide, why not take it?
Well, you know, he also, he being the sheriff, stated that they were cleared within the first couple of days of the investigation.
Yeah.
And that's just total bullshit. There's no way, if you threw so many different investigators at this, that you could have gotten all the data that you would need: insurance policies, bank accounts, financial, credit cards, a full LexisNexis, the whole 9 yards. There's no way you could have gotten all that information and come up and say, okay, I can't find a motive here for anybody in the family. Therefore, they're cleared.
Yeah.
They didn't even have the DNA. Okay.
100%. Yeah, I got you. I mean, it was outrageous to hear him say that. Anybody that knows a little bit about investigations would say,
oh, hell no.
Yeah. And she knows about investigations as well. So that's a big oh, hell no. All right, let's take a listen to this report. It talks about the investigative genetic genealogy. They have an expert that comes on from a lab in Arizona.
The sheriff of Pima County, Arizona, giving Fox News an update about the DNA on the glove that had been considered a potentially key piece of evidence after an advanced form of testing has been done that's been used in some of the top criminal and cold cases.
The DNA on the glove that was found 2 miles away was submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
No hits on the DNA found in the glove.
Correct.
So you are no closer to a suspect as a result of the DNA test, at least.
As a result of CODIS.
That was devastating. Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Greg Jenkins.
Before we continue any further, I'm asking this of the chat. Everybody in the chat that's watching, did you feel like the sheriff, and do you feel like the sheriff each time he does an interview, and he's been doing some now recently, you know, but he's limiting his time, 10 minutes, 13 minutes, whatever. But do you get a sense that the sheriff is being very defensive? And almost when he answers these questions, it's like he is on the defense. Let me know if it's just me, because sometimes my mind wanders. Ed's, God only knows what he's Googling right now. I'd love to look at Ed's Google search history, because it's got to do with forensics 101 or something that he wants to home in on. But let me know in the chat. Do you think that the sheriff Nanos is being defensive with his interviews with Brian Enton? We know he was that had to be so awkward, because Brian interviewed 2 or 3 one current, actually 2 current and 1 former executive from the Pima County Sheriff's that had a lot of shit slinging to do about this sheriff. But yeah, it's he's on the defensive.
It's right outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson. He joins us now. So there wasn't a match and there was no hit, which means the person or persons hasn't had a serious crime that popped up on any national database, right?
That's right. Good morning, Brian. And that means that now they will turn to trying to use that investigative genetic genealogy process to try and match any of the DNA profiles that they've collected, both on the glove and within the home behind me. And we went out and visited the top forensic DNA labs here in Tucson. And the individual there running it, the director, Wendell Long, said, in a perfect scenario, they would have matched DNA on the outside of that glove to Nancy, and on the inside homicide to an individual that would be a suspect. That didn't happen. So we're back to this genealogy sort of matching, if that can be possible. But we talked to him about the different types of DNA that are collected, and it's very interesting. Listen here.
Well, there's basically two major types of DNA collection. There's the standard DNA collection, which is blood, semen, bodily fluids. But touch DNA is totally different. Touch DNA you can do with as few as 6 to 8 cells. It's actually cells from your skin that you leave. Touch DNA probably is never directly convicted in anyone. Standard DNA, yes, all the time in rape cases, murders, and all that. But touch DNA, the value of it is more in giving more leads to the investigators.
What happened with
Director
Brian
Long
Kohlberger?
says that while it seems like
Yeah, I know. I just want to let it play.
you're back to square zero, that's not necessarily the case. It just shuts down one path for investigators now to do something else with the DNA. And he says that the collection process of the DNA is also very important. Watch.
There's several ways you can collect it. You can collect it just with normal swabs. You can collect it by scraping, which is just what it sounds, by taping, which is, putting tape over something and pulling it. And then the next step is to quantitate it, which means, do we have enough that we can amplify it to see if we have a pattern? And if they do, then we use our old friend PCR, same PCR that we had when we were doing COVID. And all PCR does is it replicates the DNA pattern.
And as we move into this investigative genetic genealogy process, remember, Brian, it would presumably mean that someone in a family tree would have had to have participated in something like 23andMe or Ancestry.com. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah. I talked about this on the members only. Hey, somebody that's really paying attention, SL7383. Look at that comment, Ed.
Use the vacuum. She's talking
MVAC.
about MVAC.
That,
Where's our guy?
yeah, Jared.
Jared.
Yeah, Jared Hall. Bradley. Jared Bradley. I'm thinking of Luke Hall. I'm mixing up.
I'm mixing up Pharaoh with the MVAC.
Jared Bradley. I'm going to actually reach out to him. He has the MVAC and the FBI, as we know, because we're friends with the owner, the inventor. His dad invented the MVAC. Jared Bradley says the FBI has the MVAC in their arsenal. So they could go to Nancy Guthrie's home with that MVAC and do a forensic vacuum scrub. This gets the comment of the whole live stream right here. Whoever this is, SL7383, send me a message on DutyRon.com. You are the king or queen of this live stream. So yeah, a couple of misinformations on that report. Ed, you want to talk about it?
Say again?
There was some misinformation as it pertains to what the guy was talking about with DNA.
Yeah, well, he's saying that nobody's ever been convicted of touch DNA, and I don't believe that to be the case. And well, I guess technically Brian Kohlberger wasn't convicted; he pled guilty. Okay, but still, it's considered a conviction. Okay, so I don't understand that. And the what we're using now is in terms of PCR is short tandem repeats. The STR is what we're using.
Right.
Okay. I don't know where he got his stats from. I know he's hello.
Go ahead, Ed. I just,
Yeah.
I'm human. I make mistakes.
It's okay. We all are. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Okay. Stop breathing down my neck. Anyhow, yeah, I don't know where he got his stats from. He is down
my neck.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole. Okay. I don't know where he got his stats from, but I don't believe that is accurate.
Yeah. I don't believe it either. This is Brian Enton. I'm only going to play a small piece of this. He interviews the sheriff here. I think it was yesterday. He uploaded it onto his YouTube channel. This had to have been so cringe for Brian because he had those three individuals, one active sergeant from the Union who dogged this man, and another retired undersheriff from Pima County. The undersheriff did 40 years. Sheriff Nanos by his own admission, has been in policing for 50 years or 40. I might be wrong about the 50. But somebody that worked alongside him, Brian, interviewed 3 people. And he said, he even admitted it was awkward for him because the sheriff said, you got questions for me and I got questions for you. And they never got to the questions. So let's listen to this. How many people in the chat heard this interview? But Brian Enton's got a job to do. He's a professional, and he knew that this was going to be very uncomfortable. Anybody notice the New York Yankees helmet up here on the top of the sheriff's? Oh, my branding is blocking it. Shit. He's got a New York Yankees hat on the top of his bookshelf there. Let's listen to this.
I know that you and the FBI were able to get those surveillance photos off the camera in the front of the house.
Yeah.
Any progress on the other cameras? Can you do the same thing?
Boy, I'm hopeful. Here's what happened there. So we, of course, that camera we don't have, right? It was taken, removed from the scene, but we knew it existed, and we asked, I think it's Google, asked Google, hey, what can you do with this? And we gave them the other cameras and asked the same. And they said, well, there's not a subscription here. And it is hard because it overwrites itself, right? Every, I don't know how many hours, maybe it's every 36 or 72, whatever it is. But you know what, Sheriff, we'll try. Thank you. Away they went. They came back with this. And I'm going to try to explain this as a simple man that I am would. They explained it, it's like peeling paint. You have images over images over images, and you want to get to that 8th layer or the 6th layer, and you got to peel back very easily because you might destroy the layer you wanted. So they were able to do that. I said, oh, this is really, that was that piece of evidence. Oh, they kept it 10 days. No, we all sat here with, right in our command post with the FBI and went, this is really great stuff. We need this out there. So I don't know that it was here more than 2 hours, and it's only because we had to do some cutting of the way they sent it to us and prepare it to get out to the media, and had to check with Washington, all those things that the FBI had to do as well. And we got it out probably less than 2 hours. And it generated in that first hour for us, just alone here at the department, almost 5,000 tips. So it's a great piece of evidence. So there's other cameras. Your question, will we get more? We've asked the Google, hey guys, can you do this? And they said the very same thing. Sheriff, we don't think we can get anything, but we'll try. And that's all we're hopeful.
And so as of now, it's still just the video from the front.
Yes.
Okay. Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's daughter, obviously very famous, loved around the country. Is this really random, or do you think someone may have had, like, you know, a grievance against Savannah? Have you been able to sort that out at all?
You know, well, yeah. Anything's possible, right? I mean, there was talk, well, this was a burglary gone bad. This was that. Those things have never come out of this office because we recognize that anything is possible, and we'll allow that evidence to show us what it is. The time to ask that question, motive, is when we actually know who's done this. And so, yeah, I get the speculation, but yeah, for me, I just looked at it and said from day one that Nancy was removed from her home against her will. We need to find her.
Hey, Ron,
I mean, come on.
can you pause that?
Yeah, I'm
The
pausing.
time to find motive is after you find the person that did it.
Yeah.
Is that the horse before the cart? Because normally, if you can look at the background of people and establish, okay, who has the motive, who has a motive to do this,
Right.
that helps you target possible suspects.
Correct.
Am I getting this wrong, or all
No,
my years of
100% right.
investigation backwards?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. We're gonna bring in, because Timmy worked a major case with your wife. He's a fantastic retired NYPD first grade detective, and he's a polygraph expert. He does it for a living. We're gonna discuss polys, but right now we're gonna discuss this interview a little bit with the sheriff and a little bit of this case. Timmy, thank you for joining. Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed. You know, we're brothers from another mother, so it's always great to have you, Tim. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for inviting me, Ron. Hey, Ed.
Hey, Ron. I mean, sorry. Hey, hey, Tim.
So, Tim, you know, this sheriff here, I'm going to play the rest of this interview. You know, he's getting way ahead of himself, and he's out of his league. It's so clear and apparent that he has not handled a major case like this in his 40, 50 years, however many years he's been in the business. And if he has, it's so far in the past that he's not well polished, and he cannot speak with authority. I've not heard him one time at the 2 press conferences that he gave. He was stumbling over his words, and you could see clearly here he doesn't know technology. He has no knowledge of Google, Nest, who owns the company. These are the people who got him the video through the FBI, of course. But you would think that this man would do a little bit of crash cram course of learning a little bit about technology before he gets into an interview. Your thoughts on what you just heard from this sheriff, Tim?
So first of all, you know, these agencies all have a public information officer who's fine-tuned in interviewing and making statements and dealing with the press and answering questions a certain way. That, in my opinion, that's probably who should be handling most of these interviews for that department. But the sheriff, hey, he's the boss. He wants to do them. That's his prerogative. I do like to listen to what he's saying, and I kind of like nitpick everything that comes out of his mouth, because it can also give you clues, right? If you listen to what he's saying, they obviously have more information than what is put out there. With him saying that she was forcefully removed out of the house, leads me to believe, with him saying it that definitively, that he may have seen something, maybe video, something along those lines, to help him come to that conclusion, where he's saying it so definitively that that's what, you know, took place. If you listen to what somebody says, you can really, really fine tune and pick things off, you know, especially the three of us who are all prior investigators, right?
Right.
You know, we've done thousands of interviews between the three of us. And when you listen to someone and they're saying certain things, you can kind of pick things off and say, okay, yeah, there's more to that. You know?
Right. And what's great about your experience, Tim, is, you know, Ed and I have been retired for some time, but you're still, you know, doing these polygraphs. So you can listen to somebody do an interview like this, and you can tell if someone's full of shit or if they're just being truthful. And that's what I love about you, is that you have that knack for knowing when someone's letting out a you know, word salad or whatever you want to call it, and is trying to sidestep around the truth. And of course, he has to keep. You have to hold the you know, intricate parts, the most important parts of this case, close to the vest. So he's being careful not to release what he's not supposed to release, but maybe he will. So do you mind if we listen to a little bit more of it, and
Sure.
you pick it apart a little bit for us?
Sure.
Thanks.
PD's detectives are working around the clock. I mean, we see them, you know. How long can this go on for in terms of the investigation at this level?
Because of the media, really, and that's a good thing, right? Because of the media, we've generated so many leads. I know last Wednesday we had 18,000 leads. The FBI had 14. So you're talking over 30,000. We're probably closer to 40 or 50,000. As long as those leads keep coming, we'll keep at it.
I know you've said you can't, for the investigative reasons, talk about what you found in the house. But is there a lot in the house that you're not able to say? I mean, is there a lot of evidence we don't know about in terms of this being a crime?
No, again, you're asking me something that I can't talk about. I will tell you this. We removed.
Tim, he said no. Yeah.
He wanted to shut that down very quickly.
Let's play back to that, because I was watching your facial expressions when he said that, and I tuned into it too. When I listened to this is the third time I've listened to this interview. When he asked him, is there more evidence inside that house?
He started squirming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want you to, you know, talk about what those indicators are, if you could briefly, but let's listen to it again.
We'll keep at it.
I know you've said you can't, for the investigative reasons, talk about what you found in the house. But is there a lot in the house that you're not able to say? I mean, is there a lot of evidence we don't know about in terms of this being a crime?
No, again, you're asking me something that I can't talk about. I will tell you this. We removed some biological evidence, prints, DNA, whatever. All of that was removed and sent to the lab. We removed physical evidence, computers, phones, everything.
And he said biological weapons.
Anything we could.
Wait, guys.
Submitted to another.
What?
Quick question. What kind of dressings do you like on your word salads?
He's very nervous. He's super nervous. He doesn't want to say, too much. I kind of get it. This type of interview on somebody like him is very different, compared to.
Timmy, you don't have the knowledge that we have because we've been covering this really closely.
Yeah.
Brian, this guy that's sitting in front of him, Enton from News Nation, he interviewed a sergeant that's the union president of his Pima County Sheriff's Department, and the Pima County Sergeant Cross, he crushed this guy. He basically said, he transferred the helicopter aviation electrician, the statistician, the guy who runs all the gear. Why am I losing? The co-pilot basically got transferred because this guy was pissed off at him for something on January 25th. So when this incident took place, the pilot of the helicopter had to go up without a co-pilot and put himself in danger. This guy's known for transferring people, and the sergeant crushed him. So this reporter that's sitting in front of him, he's got deep disdain for. It's the same way he has deep disdain for the FBI. Mm-hmm. And he had a big beef with the FBI in 2016 and said that, this guy said, he dogged the FBI and said, all kinds of stuff. And he's not a friend. He doesn't like the FBI. And now they're in this case. So it's just, there's a lot to it.
He's got a public information officer. Let him handle this because
absolutely.
The public information officer is in the background.
Yeah, and she stops the interview too.
And why do we give it to the FBI? Because we know that they're very good at some of that stuff. And so we share with them that. Why did we give ours to our lab? Because it's what we've done for years, and our lab's always done well. In fact, we've used the FBI before. They're very good at solving things and doing things. But the FBI, not unlike our Department of Public Safety in Phoenix, they have a lab. They could have been used. But we look at it as this. If I use, for example, a state lab, DPS, or the federal lab, Quantico, you have to understand they have others using those labs too. And so it really puts a lot of strain on them to prioritize those cases and do what they can with them, where if I have my own lab.
Ed, I want to ask you about this because I feel like this is hogwash too. The FBI, if they took the evidence and brought it to Quantico, it doesn't matter if they're handling 500 cases. They give priority to this case, and a whole team of scientists would be working on this DNA. It's not like a private company. They have crews and teams that work. Okay, you're up. You got to do this.
I mean, given that the president, the attorney general, the director of the FBI are all involved in this case, you don't think that sample would have got priority at the FBI laboratory?
It would be right up to the front of the pile. And it's just like this whole thing, a lot of people wouldn't even catch on to this. This is bullshit. That
was a huge mistake on his part doing that. I totally disagree with him sending it to a private lab. Doesn't matter if they use them regularly. That's irrelevant.
But he made some cockamamie excuse, Tim, like that they're busy dealing with lots of other cases.
This is a case where somebody is missing. We're trying to find that person. They're going to put this at the top of the pile. With all of the media coverage, with everything going on with this case, the fact that this woman has not been found yet, this would go to the top of the pile. Ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's a private lab. They can't input directly to CODIS. Whereas the the Arizona Department of Public Safety lab can, and the FBI obviously can, because they control CODIS.
Yeah.
Department of Public Safety in Phoenix, they have a lab. They could have been used, but we look at it as this. If I use, for example, a state lab, DPS, or the federal lab, Quantico, you have to understand they have others using those labs too. And so it really puts a lot of strain on them to prioritize those cases and do what they can with them, where if I have my own lab or a contract lab, it allows me easier access to those cases that I think are important to us. And I'm not talking this case, I'm just talking cases in general. We could build a lab, but that's pretty expensive too. We just found that this lab we use is very good. Were they in Florida at the time? I have no idea. But I know that in today's world of technology, reports are generated and sent out in the flash of an eye. What we need to know is when we send something to a lab, can we get it back to us quickly? Can we have a rush order, if you will? Well, sometimes I want this now, but the FBI may say, well, we understand that, but New York has a crime, LA has a crime, so it's not against the labs. And so when this piece of evidence, we did what we normally do, we sent it to the lab and we did that scene. Then we went and did another scene when we did a search warrant out in Rio Rico. So all of that was gone. Now we find a glove. The FBI says, oh, we can send it to Quantico. And I said, well, you know what? Let's keep it all in one place. Let's just send it all to our lab. No, it's not like no FBI's got a bad lab or no, the sheriff's department uses DNA.
Hey guys, how many departments do you know that are small to medium size that would say to the FBI, who was sent there by the president of the United States? Let's face the facts. The FBI, he said, I didn't even have to call them. They called me. There's a reason why they called them, because they were ordered to. So how many small to medium sized police departments would say to the FBI, yeah, I got my own thing. I'm just going to send all this stuff over to this contracted lab that we have an annual contract with, because, it's, they send me maybe trips, vouchers, or I don't know. I'm just kidding about that part, but it just doesn't make sense. You have the power of the federal government, maximum amount of resources, no budget is too big or small for this type of case. And you tell them, no, I'm going to send it to my contracted lab.
Hold on, Ron. Hold on.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Did you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear it.
I'm blowing the whistle. I'm throwing the bullshit flag on the field. Okay.
It's going to his.
I'm thinking Caesar dressing would work really well here
with the salad.
E tu, Brutus. E tu.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I wonder how much other stuff he's not given to the FBI. I wonder how much more information is not being shared.
This guy, when he talks, is like, I keep thinking, you spin me right round, baby, right round. I'm going in circles with this guy.
Yeah, the sheriff leaves a lot to be desired. And I mean, he's doing it to himself. Like you said, guys, if he utilizes public information officer, we saw it in Kohlberger, right? Moscow PD, they use the Idaho State public information officer for the point of contact, right? Sheriff, Chief Fry and those guys gave a couple of press conferences, but he too you could see that he was out of breath and he was not doing well. Although I love the guy, I thought he did a great job. And but you got a public information officer available to you, someone who knows how to work the mic and talk to the media, you use them. But this is a head trip, in my opinion. This is a guy who says, "This is me. I got this."
100%, Ron.
Got to call the balls and strike here, and that's what's going on with this guy. Tim, I wanted to talk to you. I think the audience, and let us know in the chat if you're interested in this. The family, according to this guy, and he walked it back. I'm going to put him back on the screen. The family, according to this sheriff, was cleared, the Guthrie family. That includes aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandkids, granddaughters, nephews, and everybody, the whole family, in a matter of 2 days. He walks it back partially, but he doesn't say how he cleared the people. You are an expert as it pertains to polygraphs. They are voluntary. You ask somebody, hey, look, if you have nothing to do with this, this should be easy peasy, nice and simple. People get nervous and they're like, oh, I'm even though I'm innocent, I feel like a polygraph because I'm nervous. I'm high strung. Talk to the audience briefly about what a polygraph is and the tool and how investigators use it as a tool, Timmy.
Right. So polygraph is this is a great case for a polygraph, right? First of all, how he's clearing the family is beyond me, because either they know who did it and they're just looking for him and they're telling everybody that they don't know who did it, or perhaps they've conducted polygraphs. Polygraphs, they're always voluntary. Either the FBI or the sheriff's office can ask all of these family members to take a polygraph. Now, they can't be forced to, but let's face it, right? Nancy Guthrie's missing. Family members want her back. They want to find her. If you had nothing to do with it, then why not submit to a polygraph? Polygraph's going to clear you. If you look at it, and if I'm the investigator in a case and I'm like, hey, Ron, so-and-so is missing. Hey, you want to take a polygraph? If you said no to me, now I'm kind of looking at you sideways.
Yeah.
So, it's going to bring attention. You're also going to have people who are going to say, well, let me talk to my attorney about that. I'm also going to look at you sideways. But it's a great tool. It's used all the time.
Right.
And it's a tool. It's a tool that's part of your arsenal that investigators have, where you can clear suspects. You can clear these family members and clearly say, hey, they had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And someone in the chat said no one is cleared until the perp is caught, obviously. But as investigators work, they work from, they go to the victimology tree starts, right? You start from the family and you work your way out into the branches of, neighbors, close friends, workers that have been hired to work on the property, people who do the general maintenance of a humongous estate like that. So it's a huge undertaking of investigative boots on the ground, going and knocking on people's doors, going and interviewing people. And then when you get raised up, you take it to that next level. Oh, this guy or this girl didn't sound right in this interview, even though it was just an informal interview. Hey, where were you on the night of, that type of thing. You're not having the big lights over you. But at the end of the day, the polygraph, like you said, is a great tool in a case like this, because you could rip through 4 or 5 people if you have multiple polygraph examiners a day. And the FBI, can you talk? Do you have knowledge of the FBI poly team, Tim? I almost called you Ed.
I don't know any FBI polygraph examiners that would be part of this team. I do know a few examiners. I know a bunch of HSI examiners.
Is it a big program within the FBI?
Oh, huge program. So, what you got to keep in mind, right? You cannot work for the federal government as an FBI agent, Secret Service, CIA, DIA, Customs and Border Protection. Every one of those jobs require you take and pass a pre-employment polygraph test. So they're actually the biggest user of polygraph probably in the world, because they use it for hiring. So every one of those agencies have a staff of polygraph examiners, and they cross agency assist each other.
Right.
Okay. They all attend the same school, the government school. Some of the questions that would be asked on a polygraph, right? Like in this case specifically, were you present when Nancy was taken? Do you know where she is right now? Did you participate in any way in Nancy becoming missing? Those are all questions that a polygraph examiner would ask somebody.
And Tim, I'm sorry to cut you off. That's a great thing that you're leading me into here. The son-in-law is what most people in the public, and let me know in the chat if you feel this way, Tommaso or whatever it is, Tommaso, the son-in-law is the last person to be with, allegedly be with Nancy Guthrie. He supposedly drove her from their home, from point A to the house, and this would be somebody that would be the first primary person that you would polygraph, correct or not?
Absolutely. The last person to see her would be at the top of the list. Absolutely.
So this Tommaso guy is numero uno when it comes to a polygraph, and that would be someone that the detectives would home in on right away.
What would I ask him, right? I would ask him, did you drop her off at the house? Was the last time you saw her on such and such a date? Again, did you have anything to do with her being missing? Do you know where she is right now? Do you know, or did you participate in any way in this event? Those are all questions he would definitely be asked.
I'm going to play a little bit of a clip from Fox 10 Phoenix. They talk about, I'm going to circle back to investigative genetic genealogy because they have a piece in here. And then we'll come back to this polygraph and Tommaso and his wife, Annie. That's another person who hasn't spoke. I have never heard the daughter, Annie, speak. I saw her when they were giving their pleas, but she never really fully spoke like her son had made a statement on his Instagram.
Good morning, guys. We're live out here in front of Nancy Guthrie's home again. The 84-year-old woman lives here in the Catalina foothills just outside of Tucson. And that's where this whole event took place over 2 weeks ago now at this point. And here, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says there was a follow-up investigation yesterday, but they were not able to specify details about that follow-up investigation. But we did learn more from the FBI that the DNA from that set of gloves found 2 miles away from the home, which appear to match the gloves seen in doorbell video of a possible suspect, was submitted to CODIS, but that DNA did not trigger a national match. It also did not match DNA found at the house, which is still being analyzed now. The DNA also requires further testing. Fox spoke with Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, who tells us the department continues to look into numerous leads. He also says at this point he has faith that Nancy is still alive.
They asked me, do I have proof of life? I asked them, is there proof of death? I'm going to have that faith. And sometimes that faith, that hope is all we have. My team, 400 people out there in the field today, woke up this morning and went out there with the hope and the belief that they're going to find Nancy.
Investigators say CODIS is just one option, and now they're looking into additional investigative genetic genealogy options for DNA evidence to check for any matches.
So that's a high-tech genetic genealogy that they're going to be using that we were just discussing. Ed, are you done with your research? I took you off because you were looking down the whole time.
I'm doing all kinds of research.
All right. Well, very good.
I'm trying to get the, I went into the county Pima trying to get some information about the house.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure there's public records in regards to the house. They moved in 72. So it should be out there. Hey, Tim, I want to go back to the son-in-law, Tommaso, and his wife, Annie. If you were doing a polygraph on them, in addition to what you just listed as questions you would ask him, would you ask questions? Is this appropriate as far as finances go? Would you ask him things like, "Oh, do you have a lot of debt?" To maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to fish here. What are some of the questions you would ask, other than, were you the last to drop her off?
Yeah, the finance questions. I mean, those are all things that they can do a credit check and figure out what somebody owes. So that's all stuff that's probably done quite quickly in the background. Things that I would ask, again, did you have anything to do with it? Did somebody threaten you? Are you being forced to help? Did anybody ask you information related to her? Do you know for sure who took her? These are all questions that I might ask on a polygraph. So the polygraph consists of several different parts, right? It has a pretest. During the pretest, you have to be non-accusatory, yet you're probing and you're looking for, little things that people are saying. This way you can formulate the questions during the actual polygraph test itself. So during that pre-test, it's wide open. You're going to be asking questions about finances. That's all stuff pre-test where they're not attached to the polygraph, but I would definitely ask some of those questions during the pre-test. Some people may say, hey, it's none of your business, or I'm not answering it. That's fine.
Yeah.
You
ask,
just move on.
Would you ask him, like, do you love your mother-in-law? Do you get along with her? Do you fight with her?
Yeah. So that's all pre-test. That you can't ask feeling questions on a polygraph.
Okay.
Polygraph, you may love her today and not like her tomorrow, or not like her last week. So that's something that's always going to change. You can't ask a feelings question on a polygraph. It's all about facts, what took place, something that has physical, teeth to it.
Yeah. The sheriff alluded here to and touch base with the Justin Lum. That was the last interview that we saw there. Right away, he said, people ask, do we have proof of life? And he went right to the other opposite. He said, do we have proof of death? Like, I don't know, man. It just, to me, that just rubs me the wrong way.
It's not fine-tuned. It's not what should be coming out of his mouth, in my opinion. It's not proper.
If you're a kidnapper and you're looking for a ransom, all right, you're going to want to produce proof of life in order to grease the money wheels.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny, TMZ, I dogged them, and we're going to go to the chat really quick because I want to ask, I want to ask the chat about their, what their thoughts are and what their questions would be. But we talked about TMZ the other day. That's like the National Enquirer now, and like even the Post is getting a little crazy, but it is what it is. We know what to expect out of them. But at about 4 or 5 hours ago, TMZ executive producer was on with Rosanna Scotto from Fox 5. We all know, if you're from the New York metro area, Fox 5, Rosanna Scotto. And he was on with her, and I have it. I saved the clip. I'm not going to take up time to play it, but trust me, I watched it. He said that we made a decision at TMZ that if we get another ransom note, we're going to just forward it straight to the FBI because they were getting a lot of pushback. And
so they should have been doing from day one.
That we're not going to make a story out of it. I have the clip. I saved it. Maybe I should play it because it's only like a minute, but he told Rosanna Scotto that we will not, if we get another ransom note, we will not do a story on it. We'll just forward it to the FBI. 3 hours later, the founder, Harvey Levin or Levine or whatever his name is, he's doing a whole show about a new ransom note that came into them today. Just 3 hours after his executive producer said to a local station, we're not going to do this. So for those of you who are following TMZ for entertainment purposes, that's about all they're doing when they go live with a story like that, because they should, like you said, Tim, that should have been given to the FBI and they should have shut their mouths and not made content.
So detrimental to the case, in my opinion.
Yeah. I believe that TMZ and this guy Harvey Levin are hacks, and they don't give two flying shits about Nancy Guthrie or finding her. And what they care about is making a story and putting it out there, and not talking about the family and how you can help them. And they want the doom and gloom and look at what we got. In my opinion, these are the biggest pieces of shit out there.
So one of the things, right, that I've always heard from journalists is, you want to report the story, you don't want to become the story. I think they've become, a huge part of the story. And I just, it's not something I feel that helps the case. My opinion, anything that they gotten, they should have turned it over right away and said, you could have kept it very low key and just said, yeah, we got, a letter from the kidnapper. We're not going to say what it says, but we gave it to the FBI. We're not going to make any further comments on it. Again, that's my opinion. It's detrimental to the case.
Yeah. Ed, your thoughts?
I have no thoughts on TMZ. I don't watch it. I don't find it as news. They're not newsworthy. Okay. It's so, it's the rich and shameless and all that stuff that they push out there to the world as if these people really impact my life. Okay. That I want to know about there and what they're doing and who they're with and where they're partying and all that. I don't give two shits about TMZ.
Because I watched the local Fox News, I saw the executive producer on there. And then on my YouTube feed, I was fed a full screen of Harvey sitting on a desk saying that they got another ransom note today. It's just totally ridiculous. They're just garbage. All right, here's some questions coming in. #DutyRon. What do you think of the interview that Carlos gave? Tim, I would love to show you that interview. I don't have anything to he seemed like he was taken back, Carlos. He did seem to stumble over his words a little bit, but I guess maybe he just wasn't used to having a bunch of news reporters in his face at his front door. But yeah, I mean, they're not, they're still looking in. They have a cell phone. They took it, right, Ed? They took Carlos's cell phone. They went into his home with a federal search warrant from the feds. So I have two great investigators here with me, and including myself. We know how this goes, and to get a judge to sign off on a regular New York City search warrant, you got to really have some good information. They're not just like, yeah, okay, copper, you're in here with a confidential informant. Let me sign that search warrant. No, they want to know the details. They want to know what that CI saw, what's inside that house, what you think, and why you think it's there. So you have to show a lot of cause to get a regular search warrant from a judge in Supreme Court. But let me tell you, in criminal court, Supreme Court, it doesn't matter. If you go to a federal judge, you better have, you're going to have a lot of stuff. So to have these things signed, they had to show something. And that just goes to show us that they have more than what we obviously know about. So I wanted to ask you quickly as we go to these questions, Ed, those two people we saw walking on the property at Nancy Guthrie's home, they were stopped by the sheriff deputy that was in the driveway, and they took ID, like what we saw with the pool people, right? Mm-hmm. If those were FBI or investigators or detectives from another jurisdiction that's in the task force, that wouldn't be, and we know this from working cases, you don't stop another cop. You say, hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And they show their ID, and then you go in, or they know. You would know in advance. Okay, so-and-so is coming to take forensic, to do fingerprints or do something. So that leads me to believe that those two guys were either hired by the family and approved by the sheriff's department and the investigators, doing something to fix the door or work on additional security to have the house, secured up. I mean, you could argue that it's a little too late, but they're doing something as it pertains to shoring up that house. Your thoughts, Ed?
Well, yeah, it appears that way. It appears, people are saying that these are locksmiths and they're changing the locks on the house. Okay, so that if that was pre-planned by the family, then the family should have notified the sheriff's office, and then the sheriff's office should have gotten the names and ID information of the people that were responding to do this, and given that information to the safeguarding police officer at the scene, who, when they appeared there in their truck, it appeared the officer asked for ID and got on the horn and started calling people about these people.
Right here. This is it. This is their truck, and this is their work truck. And you see him. He asked him for ID. He pulled it out of his pocket, and he gave it to him. And he's writing it down on a pad. And that's, in my opinion, there was no, they were not law enforcement or investigators of any sort. Somebody said in the chat, yeah, why clean the pool? We saw that over the weekend, right? Mm-hmm. Friday night was the warrants, and then Saturday or Sunday we saw the pool being cleaned. Like I said on the live stream, and Tim, you could chime in on this. if I'm running this investigation and I get notification, I'm the lead on it. Hey, the pool company wants to come and clean a pool. Nah, tell them to fucking come back in a month when we're done with this or whatever it is. That's what I say. Tim?
Without a doubt. I mean, you want to limit. This is still a crime scene, right? This is still an active crime scene. So you want to limit the amount of people that are coming onto the property.
Yeah.
I know these guys came on a property, so they're obviously documenting who came on a property. It's probably going to end up in a report at the end of the day, anybody who had access, because in the future they may have to eliminate them, for DNA or anything like that. Ed can tell you about that. As for the pool, I mean, why? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I'm not I don't understand that, but I hope all those doorknobs and areas that are about to be touched were processed for fingerprints and DNA. I don't know, because we don't know what the point of entry was. Okay, and so someone is saying they were plumbers today. Well, they look like they weren't doing any plumbing. They were working on doors.
They're definitely not plumbers. And we saw them working out that back door. I'm going to let the rest of this play. But yeah, like you said, you want to eliminate we've already had pizza deliveries trampling on it. We had this guy doing his job and going up to try to knock on the door, and he discovers blood at the front door and took a video with his cell phone, or his camera guy was there. It's just one thing after the other. And all right, the news homing in on the camera and so forth, but the basic bottom line is this: you want to have that scene as you want to have a chance to collect something that
should have been done from day one. Okay, because
really
even when Brian Enton went up and did what he did with the blood on the portico floor, right, and when he scanned the door, it's a black wrought iron door. Okay, I didn't see any fingerprint powder on it.
Nothing.
Okay, I didn't see anything that suggested to me that the door was processed. Okay. That said, hey Ron, we're going to show that evidence.
I'm going to show it now because we're going to get ready to wrap up. Hashtag Ed, hashtag Tim. Tim is, again, a retired NYPD detective, worked in major case, worked in a lot of different divisions of the NYPD. But right now, he's doing that polygraph. How long have you been doing the polys, Tim?
Since 2009. I've done several thousand polygraphs since 2009.
Right, and you still got to do me. You got to polygraph me too. We got to do that.
Let's go. We got to get some of your members to come up with some really good questions.
That's right.
Ed, get ready, Ed.
In God we trust. All others we polygraph.
Kitty MK13. Hello to her daughter. And by the way, I'm sorry if you got timed out. Sometimes YouTube Tim, let me do this. Sorry, you were the guest. I'll let that cover me. Kitty, I'm sorry if you got timed out. I saw that in the chat. It's a very fast moving live stream, and our moderators are working full time. So she says, question, which crime scene was processed worse, Karen Reed case or this case? Ed?
To my knowledge, Karen Reed never had a crime scene processed.
That is true. That is true. All right. What are we going to be looking at here right now, Ed, on the screen? What's happening here?
Okay. So this is what we have in terms of evidence. All right. So we have digital/electronic forensic evidence. We have physical forensic evidence, and we have forensic biological/DNA evidence. This is what we currently know.
Who made this chart, Ed?
I don't know. Some guy with a green hat and hoodie. Anyhow,
where is he? There he is.
Yeah.
He's smiling.
He is smiling.
All right. So we have the video of the suspect in Nancy Guthrie's portico. Then we have, from there, we were able to use, they went back and they scanned the location, and they got extensive measurements from the 3D laser scanning and using photogrammetry and so forth. They were able to establish the height, weight, build from that video. In addition, from that video, they got information about the suspect's mass, clothing, backpack, holster, mouth light, make and model, manufacturer, and possible retailers identified, And now unknown if they were able to identify the gun. So if they were able to enhance that video and focus in on that gun, they would have been able to get a make and manufacturer of that gun as well. Okay. Next, Nancy Guthrie's Nest doorbell camera went offline at 1:47 a.m. Okay. And continuing with the electronic digital evidence, Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker lost connection with her smartphone, watch, and monitoring base station at 2:28 a.m. Okay. So that's all great information. Continuing down with the physical evidence, then they got the black nitrile glove recovered from the side of the road 2 miles, approximately 2 miles away from Nancy's house, which the FBI said appears to match the glove in the video. Okay, there's several ways that can be done, but we talked about that on the previous show. They said they have DNA profile was obtained. Okay, so from the suspect's clothing and so forth, you know that our investigators were going to Walmart because many of the products, including the backpack, the holster, were sold from Walmart. And it appears from the shirt and the pants were also sold there as well. But there are other sources for some of these items, other locations, retailers that could possibly sell it. So then the FBI started visiting stores with photographs and names of people who have purchased that holster, okay, recently, and they're going to the gun stores and asking, hey, did you sell a gun to these individuals? Please check your records. And many have cooperated with this in regards to this investigation. Then we have our forensic biological evidence. So we have the blood drops on the tiles in the portico. DNA matches Nancy. Okay. Then we have unknown DNA from Nancy's house. Okay. No hit on CODIS. And it doesn't match glove DNA per the sheriff. Unknown male DNA, discarded black nitrile gloves recovered from the side of the road 2 miles down the road, and no hit on CODIS, and doesn't match the DNA in the house. And that's where we're at. That's everything we know, but I'm sure dollars to donuts, law enforcement has way more than this.
Yeah.
Okay? And they probably have more videos. They probably have more names, more information, possible vehicles, possible, geofencing, cell phone tower pings. They probably have a lot more things than we know about.
There is a ton more. And when this case comes to a completion, and we hope that's sooner than later, we'll hear about it. Apologize, Tim. I'm going to move. Kitty Mac, again, with a lot of comments. She's rocking and rolling today with the comments. She says, you guys are the absolute best. Dropping the knowledge. It's like we're in a criminal justice classes whenever we watch your videos. I just love it. And thank you for your generous support during the members only as well, Miss Kitty Mac 13. And again, hello to your daughter. Guys, I want to get ready to wrap this thing up. Ed, this was fantastic. I asked him to put this together quickly last week, and earlier this week, and he did it. So thank you for that, Mr. Wallace. Somebody asked what Celebrite is. Ed, I know we had an expert on who worked with the FBI from New Jersey. I forgot her name. She's going to get mad at me, but we had her on, and she explained Celebrite. Ed, can you, somebody in the chat wanted to know about it.
Well, Celebrite is one of a few software companies that make software and hardware to download electronics, capture everything on a cell phone, on a laptop or iPad or so forth and so on, go into even vehicles and download the infotainment systems and so forth, and see what's in these hard drives in the database there, and then categorize them, break them down into files, and allow people to see text messages, dates and time, internet searches, phone calls, how long they lasted, what towers they bounced over. All that information, metadata information, all that stuff is able to be obtained by this proprietary software from the Celebrite Corporation.
very advanced. And Tim's shaking his head because he knows all about this stuff too as well. Somebody said in the chat about the signal sweeper that was in use February 3rd to look for her the
Pacemaker.
Thank you, Timmy. To look to see if it's transmitting somewhere. Again, somebody in the chat said, "Oh, I believe she's in Mexico." Hey, listen, there's so many possibilities. The Mexican border is just an hour south, 60-mile drive. I don't see the upside to having an 84-year-old sickly woman who requires heart medication, who's bleeding. I don't think anybody has her in Mexico or anywhere else, but that's my opinion. And opinions like assholes. Everybody's got one.
Yeah, sometimes too. But
oh, Jesus.
That said, the FBI was reported today.
Hell no.
Yeah. The FBI is reported today to have contacted Mexican law enforcement authority about this case. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, we're going to go round table here, and I'm going to look to see if any last minute questions. I know a lot of them we missed them, but round table, I'll start with our guest, Tim, our brother. What's your thoughts on this? Is this case getting solved sooner than later? What's your expert opinion on it?
I'm confident that there will be a conclusion to this case. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, unfortunately, but there will be a conclusion to this case. Somebody will be arrested, in my opinion. The technology of today compared to 20 years ago, compared to 25 years ago, is just so far advanced. The tools that law enforcement has to investigate cases, I'm confident there'll be an arrest.
Yeah, and with the help of the FBI, I really do believe that that's happening sooner than later. Thank you, Ed, for taking that off. Ed, over to you for your expert opinion.
I believe the genetic DNA is going to be very fruitful in this case. Now, just remember, we don't know if that glove on the side of the road has anything to do with what transpired with Nancy. We do know there's an unknown set of DNA in Nancy's house. Okay, we do know from the video of a masked, armed man with a backpack and so forth being present in and around the time of the incident. So that said, I believe we're going to get some family trees, a last name, and then from both sets of DNA, the house and the glove. And then that will send law enforcement chasing after these people, doing background investigations on the names and everything to see if there's any criminal history with the names that pop up. Just because they're not in CODIS doesn't mean they're not criminals. It just means they either weren't arrested or convicted, or they weren't arrested in states that what they were arrested for allows their DNA to be taken and put into CODIS.
Right.
Okay. So we don't know all that's going on here, but we're going to see if there's any, once they get these names and they pop, and they're going to see if there's any connections, like, with the Kohlberger case and so many other cases.
Yeah, 100%, Ed. And I'm going to give my thoughts here real quick. I do really believe that with the help of the public, and I would love to see the family match that payout to anybody that comes forward with information of their mom's whereabouts. Hopefully that'll be coming soon. But I think through crowdsourcing and the internet and people who are watching these cases that may have knowledge of who was involved in this, I strongly feel that the great people of the area there are going to come forward and help investigators with these leads. And of course, everything that my two great friends have just outlined here holds true as well. But my feeling is that this case is going to be solved with help from the public. and crowdsourcing and talking about the case respectfully and including prayers and thoughts for the family help tremendously. So thank you all for being here. I want to thank my guest, Timmy Acosta, for being here. Courtesy of Timmy, in God we trust, all others we polygraph. That's part of my studio, Tim. So thank you for that gift.
Thanks for having me here today, Ron. Great seeing you and Ed. Thank you.
Yes, it's always our pleasure to highlight and have some of the great experts from our job. We got to all get together soon and have maybe a lunch or a dinner. That would be on me because I have Ed's credit card. So I want to say thank you to the super chatters, the replay viewers, all of the folks who positively engage in this community. You're what makes this a great place. Without our live audience, we have nothing, and the replay viewers are second to none. The moderators, shout out to you. And before this stream ends, thank God my brain is working, I want to say happy birthday to Kristen, our producer, our girl who does all the back end stuff here at Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. So happy, healthy birthday. Many, many more to you, Kristen. We love you and we thank you for all you're doing.
And I'd like to say to those that celebrate, happy Lunar New Year, happy Chinese New Year, happy Tet. And for us Christians, it's the beginning of Lent, Ash Wednesday today for us Catholics. Okay. So remember, we're going into the season of Lent, and let's not forget the sacrifices
Amen.
that were made for us.
Amen. Amen. Sending strength, prayers, and positive vibe to the Guthrie family, to all the investigators that are involved, the men and women who are pounding the street and are doing God's work night and day, to all the people of Tucson and then the surrounding areas, the seniors who are scared. We saw reports of them talking about that they're all living in fear. So I send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to all in that general area and to you guys in the live chat. We'll see you all on the next one. Thank you. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace.